Hi, my name is Anthony, a.k.a. Vooch.
And I'm his wife, Angie.
And this is the Slow to Speak with Vooch podcast. At different times in our lives, we are faced with loss of different kinds, whether the loss of someone we love or something we hold dear to us. When supporting the griever, it is hard to know what to say or what to do. Well, I'm excited for this season on Slow to Speak with Vooch podcast. My wife, Angie, and I will be discussing some suggested etiquettes when supporting a griever.
Over the past 10 years, I have experienced so many losses, family and relative losses, friend losses, job losses, and health loss. Experiencing loss upon loss to me felt like a wave of water that just kept hitting my face to the point of leaving me breathless. In my experience with losses, I found that many were unaware of the proper etiquettes to use when supporting the grieving. So I was encouraged by a friend to write down my experiences. This led to family, friends, and me to write a book called Suggested Etiquettes for the Grieving. These suggestions are only a framework of ways to consider when supporting a person grieving any loss.
These following podcasts are going to be with the authors of the book, so please enjoy.
God was just showing me grace so he can use me later, because now, a little bit far from removed from this, I can see that God is using all these losses for something good, especially when it comes to writing this book.
Gotcha.
There were other things, like people trying to use biblical or church knowledge, like trying to say God disciplined those he loved. Consider it pure joy when you face some trials of many kinds. Wisdom from their experience and loss. Sending me cards inundated with scriptures, trying to convince me how God feels and why I had to go through what I was going through. Their expectations of how I should be handling it, such as when so-and-so went through this, when like kind of alluding to what you were saying earlier, when so-and-so lost their loved one, they didn't cry, or they were so strong because they kept attending church and serving with a happy face. And that was just not conducive to my healing process because I was already in enough pain and guilt.
Right. It's almost like they gave you scriptures, but it wasn't like there was empathy behind that.
Not really.
Right. Gotcha. Now, you mentioned in your intro that the help that you were receiving from others was detrimental to the healing process. What specifically did you notice that was missing from how people tried to comfort you or from the books that they suggested that you read?
Well, I mentioned it in the first etiquette about an active listening ear. I'm not knocking other books down. I was looking for something to help me in the moment when I was in the midst, in the very depth of my grieving and my emotions and my pain, to help me to see that I'm not crazy because I was experiencing so many emotions and so many other things that I was going through. And some of the books, scriptures, and programs that others tried to share with me all seemed to try to fix the way the griever was feeling and not responding to their losses.
Oh, okay.
There was a lack of real emotions from the griever and how the griever felt to me in that very moment. Because sometimes when books are written, they're written after the person has gone through all the grieving. And then they say, well, now I'm stronger. But in the moment, I felt like I'm not this strong yet.
Right.
And ways to actually, there wasn't things that talk about ways to actually support the griever versus helping the griever. And I know that sounds crazy, but supporting involves listening to help the griever get through the storm instead of trying to help them get around the storm.
Wow, I understand that. Now, just with thinking about what you just said, I know writing can be like emotionally draining and stressful at times. What were some of the challenges that you faced in writing this book?
Are you trying to say I was challenging when I was around you?
I mean,
What are some of the challenges you faced doing?
Well, we'll get into that into future episodes.
Yeah, you don't want to say it now. Okay, well, I first started writing the book about 3 months after I lost my almost twin sister. And I was struggling with how I was feeling towards God at the time, allowing me to experience so much pain. And along with that was these insensitive comments that were being made by my family members when I was planning the homegoing for my loved ones. I didn't have to plan all of them. I had to help plan my mom's and help plan. I was the point person for my sister, but it was actually my niece who did both of those, who were amazing. And I'll talk about her a little bit in another chapter.
But what was some of the things that your family was doing? I mean, you said it was kind of stressful and some things that they were doing that wasn't very helpful.
Well, one of the things was some were trying to dictate how the funeral should be done. And there's always this guilt that you're not doing things the way that the loved one, especially when they pass away suddenly. And so you're trying to do your best to do what you think that they will want you to do. Well, some of it was good. Some like for example, my mom. We were going to bury her, and my grandmom and my aunt reminded me. She said my mom never wanted to be buried; she wanted to be cremated. So that was good, but there were people who kept complaining. I remember when my older sister passed away, one of my cousins went online accusing me of something that I didn't really do. She thought that I was telling her she was asking me how to go to my sister's repast, and she thought I was telling her something different, like, well, just email me now. But I was trying to get everybody's emails to get everybody connected.
That was when we were there and we were driving. We were getting ready to drive over there and we were telling everybody. And then, okay, I remember that situation.
But in her mind, she thought that I was saying email her when there was no Wi-Fi there.
Gotcha.
And so that got twisted up and it turned into a really big argument on the internet.
That you can, because a lot of times you really don't see yourself going 100%.
And I know you're an artist yourself, so I mean, this is better fit for you in that sort of realm. I really love this, but what does that actually look like?
But have you made any visuals to go with those recordings? Have you done anything that you could really have done with that time and made more out of it? Have you recorded the session?
Sometimes families are hurting a lot. So they just say little things and they try to criticize how things are done. One of my relatives said that I was being snotty to her at my mother's funeral and I couldn't even remember my name.
Wow.
And I'm just like, okay, that was just really hard. And so
that's a lot to go through. I mean, and I remember being there with you and you're just sitting there and just trying to think of all these things. And I know on their part, they're hurting, but it's almost like that Monday morning quarterback where they can sort of just sit back and sort of criticize, well, should have did this, you should have did that. Why didn't this go that way? And it's easy for them to do that, but they don't realize that you're grieving. And then all this pressure with you coming from out of town, driving all the way up there, and all of this is put on you, and they're not really helping out.
Yeah, and then little comments about how the family is not close. And in all honesty, lots of families are not close, and I'm not giving that as an excuse and wanting to mention, oh, funerals are the only time we meet together. But in all honesty, when following up with family members, they just talking out of their pain, and there was not really a real follow-up. It's almost like you feel blamed for it. But moving to the next thing, that what was hard about writing this book in particular is it was frustrating. I was frustrated with the Christian community for what I felt were tactics that were trying to be used to fix me with scriptures and religious acts, such as, just continue to serve. Mm-hmm. It'll be good to see you at church again. And that was, again, one of those things. It just wasn't healthy during my during my healing process, because I already had enough guilt on my plate. And so I had enough guilt. I had enough things to try to get through. There's just so much to go on. And I talk about that in another chapter, but there's just so much that goes on that you don't need to process all this other stuff that other people are trying to say to you and trying to get you to do. You no longer have the ability to try to see, okay, speak plainly, because I really can't interpret what you're saying right now because my brain is fried.
Right.
But later, I gotta give God the glory for real on this, because I almost gave up on writing this book. And then one day, the Spirit moved me to sit down and write 3 chapters in one sitting. Yeah. And so as I looked through my first draft, I saw how those who unknowingly hurt me or said hurtful things during my healing process would have taken offense to it. So I had to look back over it again, because I didn't want them to feel blamed or shamed for what they intentionally did to make the pain worse. And so what I did is I generalized everything a little bit more. I didn't go into depth. And so I just kept on, and so I redid that. But I couldn't get past the first 3 chapters for some reason. I just kept trying to write, and I just kept getting interrupted, and I couldn't get that 4th chapter to come out. So I sat there and I prayed, and I said, okay, God, I felt the Spirit moving me for these first 3 chapters. I need your help again. And then the Spirit moved me to recruit other authors.
What was your process in recruiting like other authors? I mean, because it's like if you quickly got through the first 3 chapters, how did you go about recruiting other people?
First of all, I had to realize that this was God's plan, not mine. And the reason why I say that, because I wanted to hurry up and get the book done. And so I was like, recruit other authors? I don't want to do that. But the first person that I did recruit is the one who inspired me to write this book. And I think we're going to wind up interviewing them down the line. Is that correct?
Yeah. We'll try to get everybody.
I won't say their names until we get to it.
Okay.
But the first person, she is now a minister at her church. I asked her to write the book because she had just experienced a loss, and she was one of those people who was trying to help me to understand what should be included in the book. So I asked her. She wound up going back to school, and so she was only able to write a little, so hers is sprinkled throughout the book.
Okay.
I asked my brother, because as I talked to him over the years, he experienced a lot of losses, and that more than the losses that I lost, he experienced loss in life itself. There were some losses in life itself I would like from that perspective to be included in the book.
That's your younger brother, right?
Yeah, my baby brother. He would kill me if he hear me say baby brother, but he's like 6'1", but that's my baby brother. And our son, because as he start to open up with us, I start noticing some losses from a youth's point of view. We may view it as, oh, that's just petty. Well, wait until you get those little phrases. Well, right. When I was young, when I was growing up, it's just like they have a whole new slew of things that they have to deal with, and when they lose something, and it's so public, and I just wanted him to speak on it.
Yeah, especially with this social media age and everything.
Yes.
It's all out there.
Yeah, because it's almost like being a star. You can't, I suffer my losses because I'm not on social media that much. I suffer my losses outside of the public eye.
Right.
He was suffering his loss in the public eye. So